Lions back in the practice field and a couple of healthy bodies coming back, plus Michael Lombardi from VSIN coming up on a Wednesday. Locked on Lions.
You are Locked On Lions, your daily Detroit Lions podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's happening, everybody? Matt Dery with you. It is a Wednesday edition of Locked On Lions right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Wednesday, November 16th and a Thursday, November the 17th. Michael Lombardi, former longtime NFL executive with the Browns, Eagles, Patriots with Bill Belichick, is going to join us momentarily to talk about the Lions and all things Detroit Lions football from VSIN and the GM Shuffle podcast. Plus, we got some injury updates to go over as well. Some good news on the injury front. Today's episode brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. You can follow us on Twitter at Dery Speaks, D-E-R-Y Speaks, at Locked On Lions on Twitter, the Matt Dery Facebook fan page, and as always, watch us each and every day on the Locked On Lions YouTube channel. Lions and Giants coming up on Sunday, and I will repeat what I said last week against the Bears, and I'll say it again this week. I think this is a very winnable game for Detroit. Giants are good. They own the fourth quarter. They finish games. Brian Daboll has done a great job and is probably coach of the year, taking a Giants team that many felt was going to finish last in the NFC East with Danny Dimes, etc. And they're 7-2. But they're only a 3.5-point favorite. They keep teams in games. They do not have an explosive offense at all. I know Kenny Golladay will probably light it up this week against his former team and all of that, but let's be honest. This is Saquon Barkley and a solid defense and good coaching and good special teams, especially with their kicker, Graham Gano. But I think the Lions got a shot this week, and I like their chances. I like them having a little momentum right now and the way they've been playing a little bit more physically, and I think they can run the football on this Giants team as well. So we'll get into that momentarily on the show. I want to go over the injury report from today's practice and then tell you about a couple of players that may be back soon, which is a good sign for this team. But first things first, following players did not practice today on Wednesday. Trinity Benson due to a knee injury. Taylor Decker just resting. Josh Paschal's got a knee. Frank Ragnow a foot injury. Josh Reynolds continues to be bothered by that sore back, didn't practice today. And Jamal Williams' illness did not practice today. Now, the big question has been, and they got to make sure Frank Ragnow is okay because he's just been such a rock on that offensive line. The big question has been a couple of guys. Number one, DeAndre Swift, and number two, Malcolm Rodriguez. Both of them were full participants in practice today. Rodrigo missed Sunday's game in Chicago due to that elbow injury. And of course, Swift has been bothered by those ankle and shoulder problems, but he has been a full participant in practice. Trinity Benson with the knee. I mean, the Lions are down to Mike Bratta, statistician for Lions radio, could be suiting up and playing wide receiver this week. Just the decimation that this team has had at the receiver position is unreal. And as I pointed out yesterday, that's what makes what Amon-Ra St. Brown, that's what makes what he's doing remarkable because of all the injuries that this team has had. And today, Dan Campbell was asked about Jamison Williams, and he's not even going to practice for a while. So they're targeting December. But, injuries have definitely bitten this club to an extent, but I'm not going to use it as an excuse. But, DeAndre Swift is just such a mystery. Somebody posted today on Twitter, and I apologize. I did like it, or maybe I responded to it. So go to Dery Speaks and look at my likes and replies. I forgot who posted it. But there was a video that was put out today of that throwback screen to Swift on Sunday, in which he caught the ball on the left side. He had one man he had to dodge. And then if you watch the play from the all-22 film, the camera in the end zone, Swift just had to run straight ahead, maybe beat Eddie Jackson and go and would have scored. And instead he cuts it back middle of the field for an 8-yard gain. And you scratch your head at, is DeAndre Swift hurt? Is DeAndre Swift tough? Is DeAndre Swift smart? Like, why would he cut it back when his blockers were all out in front of him on down the left sideline, and he ran behind his blockers and didn't follow just the path? And you wonder about, first of all, Jamal Williams, we'll find out tomorrow what this illness is. But with Swift, is it health? Is it just he doesn't make good decisions? What is it? It's a total mystery. But today, full practice. So I'm anticipating that this Sunday, he's going to get more snaps than he's gotten over the past few weeks. That's something to keep an eye on with DeAndre Swift. So that is number one. Injuries, getting some guys back. That's the report here for Wednesday. Two guys that the team desperately needs back, and their clocks started today as they return to practice, which means they could be back in 2 to 3 weeks. We're going to tell you about that coming up next. But Locked On Lions today brought to you by our friends at Turo. Turo is the world's largest car sharing marketplace. With Turo, you can book any car you want, wherever you want it, from a community of local hosts. Browse a huge selection of vehicles for just about any occasion or budget across the U.S., U.K., Canada, and coming soon to Australia. Book a spacious SUV or minivan for a family road trip. Get a classic or luxury car for a special event, birthday, or holiday. Find affordable economy cars if you're on a budget and just need to get from A to B. Test drive that new electric vehicle you've had your eye on to see if it fits in your everyday life. Many Turo hosts can even deliver the car right to you. All right, pretty cool. Every trip is backed by liability insurance. Terms, conditions, and exclusions apply. Forget boring rental cars and find your drive at Turo, Turo.com. All right, so some good news on the injury front for the Lions. DJ Chark and Romeo Okwara, who both have been on the injured reserve list. Romeo, of course, has not played this year at all, coming back from the Achilles injury. Chark has been out the past few weeks with a leg problem. Those two guys both returned to practice today. Now, what this means is this starts their clock that they have 21 days to make a decision, the Lions do, on when to bring those guys back. You almost forget about Romeo Okwara. We've seen the development of Aiden Hutchinson. We've been disappointed due to injuries and just he hasn't played all that well in Charles Harris this year. Josh Paschal has made things better along the defensive line. John Kaminsky's been okay. Austin Bryant, meh, whatever it is. All right. But the good news is that Julian Okwara has stepped up and played better. And now Romeo Okwara, who we forget about, who has really been the Lions' best pass rusher over the past few years and got rewarded with a pretty big contract a couple of years ago, 3 years and $39 million, is getting healthy. And you almost forgot that he's even on the team. So if they can get Romeo Okwara back, if they can get DJ Chark back, those are two very important additions for this football team. And look, next couple of weeks, I mean, this isn't going to be an easy game Sunday. Those guys are going to play Sunday. Then you got Thanksgiving in a short week with Buffalo coming in. And there's supposedly Buffalo and the Browns are going to be playing in a giant snowstorm this Sunday, so we'll see. But to get Romeo Okwara back and to get DJ Chark back, who's really their best deep threat, would really open up the offense and would help that defense, especially with the pass rush. It seems like Julian Okwara had his best game this past Sunday, and now you hope that he builds off of it coming up this weekend. But those would be two nice additions for this football team. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that they're making a playoff run or that they're doing this, that they're doing that. I mean, the Lions are playing a 7-2 Giants team this weekend. I looked this up, or my crack research staff hit me up. The last time the Lions won, I got to find this again. The Lions beat a team. The last time the Lions won on the road against a team with a winning record in the second half of the season was week 9 of the 2016 season when the Lions played the Vikings. And the Lions beat the then 5-2 Vikings, 5-3 Vikings at the time, 22-16. So you got to go back to 2016, the last time the Lions won a road game in the second half of the season against a team above 500. 22-16, that was a Jim Caldwell-led Lions team that won that football game at U.S. Bank Stadium. It's been a while, folks. It has been a while. All right, Michael Lombardi from VSIN and the GM Shuffle podcast. He had some very interesting comments about Rod Wood a few weeks ago on his show and the Lions front office. We will ask him about that, and we will do that coming up next. But first, I got to do my LinkedIn overlay. Oh, man, there we go. LinkedIn, baby. Post your job at LinkedIn Jobs at linkedinjobs.com. It is very simple. Just go to linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL and post your job for free. LinkedIn Jobs is amazing. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available when you're posting your job. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs to help find the right people for your team faster and for free. Add your job in the purple hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. And they got simple tools like screening questions, make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience. So you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. I've posted on LinkedIn Jobs, and it's great. They help you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to and faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. And what about our friends at BetOnline? They are the best. Your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from football to basketball, soccer, and esports. They've got it all at betonline.net. Look it up right now, betonline.net. Giants favored by 3.5 over the Lions this weekend. If you love sports podcasts, you'll find those at BetOnline as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. BetOnline, where the game starts. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. We've talked about it this week. Michael Lombardi is our guest from VSIN, the Lombardi Line, NFL analyst, also the GM Shuffle podcast. Joins us today here on Locked On Lions. Mike, what's going on, buddy?
Not much. I see you were honoring Rod Wood back there. That's impressive. I'm probably the only person in the state of Michigan honoring Rod Wood. I'm not sure many people outside of the Detroit community even know who the hell he is.
Well, I back in the day, and I know you know this, man, Bill Keenest used to be in charge of all the media, and I used to refer to the Allen Park facility in Detroit, the Lions facility, as 222 Keenest Drive. But then Bill was unceremoniously booted, and I now refer to it as 222 Rod Wood Drive because, as you pointed out a couple of weeks ago, Rod's got some power there in Allen Park, doesn't he?
He sure does. I mean, but that's always been the case with the Lions. They love that corporate structure. They love that, they always try to hire somebody outside of the profession of expertise. They truly adhere to the Dunning-Kruger problem. The Dunning-Kruger effect is when someone is really good in one situation. Rob Wood probably is a very good manager in the area that he was an accountant in, whether it was in the car industry, I'm not sure what it was. But then they transition into the football business. And that expertise and that intelligence and that experience doesn't always translate. They think it does. They think, well, I mean, this isn't that hard. I can do it. When in reality, it's really hard. And so that's the Dunning-Kruger effect. And we see it all the time, more in sports than any other profession, because sports is a hobby to some people. Owners adhere to the Dunning-Kruger effect. The Lions have been probably the case study on the Dunning-Kruger effect, going back to Chuck Schmidt, who was never trained in football, and they've kind of have gone on. And then they went into the Tom Lawan, same situation. Tom was, but they all think they know football, right? And so they don't really understand how to have a conversation, how to anticipate problems, how to understand really what's going on with the team. They just look at the scoreboard. And now that the Lions are on a 2-game winning streak, oh, wow, we're doing really good. Okay, we'll see.
It's funny because I should have had you on 2 weeks ago when they were 1-6, and I was ready to quit the podcast. And I said they've got to win one of these next 2 home games, Miami or Green Bay, and they did that. But the structure now, where, like you said, Rod lurking, but Brad Holmes as GM, Dan Campbell as coach. Now they're about a year and a half in. What do you think of that structure and that group moving forward?
You left out a key component here. You left out Spielman. I mean, he's not there just sitting there watching.
Right.
They
True.
brought him in
Yeah.
for a reason. Rod Wood brought him in because A, he's a fan, and B, he felt he could really help because he played the game and he was there. No, even though Rick was in the NFL, was a GM, Chris never really was. So I think this. I think the NFL has never been a Dave Clark 5 type of organizations, right? You can't have 5 people. They've never dedicated a monument to a committee, right? They just haven't. And so you need a paramilitary leader. You need somebody who's going to philosophically build the organization from ground floor to top and not from top down. And so you can have a couple wins. I mean, Walsh used to say to me all the time, these teams can win a few games here and there, but at the end of the day, are they really competing for a Super Bowl? I don't see it. I think they've got, they were fortunate enough to win last week. Justin Fields kind of turned the ball over. I would even say that they made that play. I think that he just kind of gave them that one, and Goff, surprisingly to me, played better in cold weather than I thought he would.
Michael Lombardi with us, VSIN NFL analyst and expert, GM Shuffle podcast as well, longtime NFL executive. All right, so, Dan Campbell in year 2, you mentioned it. He's only won 6 games. They're on a little bit of a streak right now. What'd you think of him on Hard Knocks, and what do you think of him as a coach as you watch every week?
Well, I didn't enjoy Hard Knocks at all because I don't think, to me, that's not the way I see organizations run. I think the assistants work for you. They don't work with you. They work for you. So when you're trying to, when every assistant has as much say on his position in terms of who's on the team, who's not, I think that's a problem. I think there needs to be a directive from the top down. This is the style of play I want to play. I think the most disappointing thing is the fact that they were bad on defense last year and they're still bad on defense this year. Like you always measure a coach by, are we improving? Are we getting better? And that hasn't happened. I think they've gotten better on offense. I think Ben Johnson's done a really good job of coordinating the offense. I think when Swift is playing, they're a better team. But to me, it's still, I don't think you can constantly be that high energy, that macho, that, hey, let's go. I think you've got to stimulate players today through being able to tell them how the game's going to go, the game, how to win the game, and then also show them how to win the game. And I think those are hard things. I think intellectual conversations go longer than rah-rah.
Let me ask you this. You brought up Justin Fields. To me, this is like backyard football, hike, and the guy just starts running. Some of these people, including Dan Orlovsky, saying he's an MVP candidate. He loses every week. What are your thoughts on Fields and how the Lions played him last week?
I think I'm not going to speak for Dan, but that's hyperbolic to even suggest that, right?
Right.
And it kind of shows that even though he might have played the position, I mean, seriously,
MVP. I know.
I think it's what I've written about on VSIN. I've talked about it on all my shows. This 6-back offense, and what I mean by the 6-back offense is the quarterback is part of the running game. Okay, if you noticed on Monday Night Football, when the Eagles got the ball, the first play of the game was the quarterback power. They wanted Washington to know the quarterback's in the run game. And so because of that the defense has to play a certain way. This isn't Patrick Mahomes where I could scramble. This is the quarterback is going to carry the ball 170 times during the year, and you better defend him. And it may only be 7 times a game. It may be 12, but he's part of the run game. And so it really goes back to the single wing. It's the evolution of the single wing where you weren't sure who was because nobody was really a quarterback in the single wing, and I think that's what Justin Fields is, a single wing quarterback. The idea that he's an MVP candidate, I don't think you watched the fourth quarter of the Lions game when he had to throw the ball. He couldn't throw the ball, and I think that's the danger in the 6-back offense. If you can't throw it well enough, then when you have to win the game, how do you measure a good team, Matt? You measure a good team simply by when they have to throw it, they can throw it. When they have to run it, they can run it. When they have to stop the run, they can stop it. When they have to stop the pass, they can stop it. Okay? So when you're a 6-back team, you got to prove you can run it when you have to prove you can throw it. Right. And they couldn't obviously do it. So, I mean, it's a nice story, and I'm sure you get a lot of clicks, and the worldwide leader's probably very happy that, these opinions come out. But at the end of the day, they're really, to me, really kind of dumb.
Michael Lombardi with me. You mentioned Jared Goff earlier in the Lions offense, which, like you said, has improved with Swift when he's healthy. Jamal Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown's been an unbelievable find. What do you think of Detroit moving forward? And obviously the question is going to be after the season, the future of Jared Goff in Detroit.
Well, look, I mean, I wasn't a fan of Goff when he was at the Rams. I think Goff's a one-dimensional quarterback in the sense he has to run play-action passes. I took a lot of crap from Ram fans when I said that. When I said that, he struggles to process. He struggles to really run a drop-back game. And I would argue with friends of mine that were on the Rams staff about that, and it wasn't until McVay finally agreed after the Super Bowl that they couldn't win a title with him. And so I think he's good enough to keep you good enough. Do I think he's good enough to win a Super Bowl? No, I'm not ready to go there. If McVay didn't think he could win a Super Bowl with them, I'm not sure as a Lions fan you think you can. But until you get a replacement, until you have somebody that you feel like can adequately lead your team, then you've got to try to find a way to manage things around him. And I think that's kind of where it is. But to me, the idea that he can only really operate in a drop back, in a play action pass game, cut the field in half, separate the defense, give him the quick reads, and not turn the ball over are always going to be his downfall when it has to become a straight passing game.
So they've won 2 in a row. They sit at 3-6. There's a lot of 3-win teams. There's a lot of mediocrity. I know you talk about it all the time on your show with Patrick. This week they go to a 7-2 Giants. Yet the Giants are only 3.5-point favorites. Why is that? And do you think Detroit can pull this off again?
Well, I mean, look, the Giants are kind of I don't want to call them an ugly team, but the Giants are not, when you look at the numbers on the Giants, yards allowed, right? The Giants don't look very good. But when you look at what are the critical components of winning football games, the Giants are really good. They're really good in the red zone. They were really good last week in the red zone. And after halftime, the Texans never punted. They got the ball down the red zone 5 times, couldn't score, turned the ball over, kicked 2 field goals. You could say, well, that's the Texans. Well, the Giants made those plays. They run the ball really effectively. They don't ask their quarterback to really participate in the offense. They run a 6-back offense as well. Only Daniel Jones can throw it a little bit more accurate, and he can run some play action and some boot. He only had 5 incomplete passes in the last game. So, they're a good team. They're a team that wins the fourth quarter. And for the first time last week, the Lions actually won the fourth quarter, which has been strange. They usually lose games in the fourth quarter, and the Bears gave them that game away. So I think it's a 3-point game one way or the other. I don't think either team's going to run away. Forget the records. The problem the Lions have, can they get control of the game? Because if the Giants have the ball for 35, 36 minutes, which is what their plan will be, then it's harder on the Lions offense to create.
Michael, great catching up. I know you are on daily with our guy Patrick Maher. He's a long-suffering Lions fan. I know you know that. Appreciate the time, and tell Patrick we said hey.
Thank you, Matt. I appreciate you having me.
You got it. There he is, Michael Lombardi with us from VSIN. Check him out as well on the GM Shuffle podcast. That's our Wednesday edition of Locked On Lions. Tomorrow we'll do the crossover.